What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Pit Crew podcast. Today, we got a special guest. It's episode number 10. We made it 10 whole episodes here. But today, we have NASCAR driver Mason Maggio coming on momentarily. I'll be joined by Robert Hill. Unfortunately, no Chris from Drive Smart. They're getting his setup ready. Hopefully, he'll be back next week. But Robert Hill, how you feeling, buddy? 10 episodes in. We're still fighting strong, keeping this show moving. I'm excited.
Man, I'm shocked that the higher ups at Drive Smart let us get 10 episodes deep in this. So thanks, Chris, Dan, everybody else over there for letting us do this. But excited to have Mason on with us tonight. And Dustin, you did a good job with the last name, buddy. You didn't butcher it. I'm proud of you.
I am learning and I'm moving forward with this. Well, with that said, let's bring on Mason Maggio.
Guys, how's it going?
What's going on, buddy? What's going on? So, this is gonna be a fun show here. Let's talk about it. We're gonna dive straight into your racing career. Tell us where you're from and how did you get your start in racing?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Funny enough, that was the same hometown as Blake Cook when he was racing in NASCAR. So, yeah, didn't really fall into the driving side of racing till a little later on. My family was always big into watching the races, kind of religiously. Would go to my grandparents' house and watch the Cup races those weekends. And as a little kid, I always thought it was cool, but I never truly understood it until until recently when when I was about 12 years old. I started paying more attention to it and kind of fell in love with it and went to a go-kart track with a couple of my buddies and just really just to do it and have some fun. And then next thing you know, I fell in love with it, kept wanting to go make more trips back to the go-kart tracks and just log laps and kind of looked at it from a hobby perspective of something that would be cool to do on the weekends. Next thing you know, my dad brought me to a race at the Daytona 500 in 2017 and watched how that race unfolded. And after I left there, I said, all right, this is going to be more than just a hobby for me. So talked my dad into letting me race. We didn't have a racing background in my family, so we were just kind of learning and starting from scratch, trying to figure out what was the best move and how could we potentially get up there into making my NASCAR dream a reality. Um, we knew it was going to be a long shot. My dad made that clear to me when we started. Uh, the first thing he told me was, son, there is a 99% chance that you are not going to make it. He said, but there is that 1% chance. And he's like, just before we start doing this and taking it seriously, just know that these are the circumstances that you're up against. But, if you want to give it a shot, we're willing to give it a shot. But if you don't want to do this, knowing that you probably won't make it, we don't have to do it if you don't want to. And 12-year-old me just said, let's do it. There's still that 1% chance of making it. So started my racing career in Bandolero cars. Did that for about 2.5 years, moved up to Legends, did that for a year and a half. Had some success in the INEX series that had the Bandoleros and the Legend cars. And then was able to move up into stock cars with Light Motorsports and did a full season at Hickory there. Won 4 races, won Rookie of the Year, managed to come away with Most Improved Driver as well. Next year, I got a unique opportunity to be a development driver for Rick Ware Racing, which is a team, well, I was going to say is a Cup team, but they're involved with a little bit of everything that I can't even keep up nowadays. But yeah, so did that for about a year with a partnership that they had with E33 Motorsports. Collected another 3 wins, finished second in the championship, won Rookie of the Year, along with a couple other titles. And that same year, I got the opportunity to make my NASCAR debut with Josh Rayom and Rayom Brothers Racing, and made 3 more starts after that with those guys. And last year just kind of bounced back and forth between Xfinity and trucks, just to continue to get the experience and make the most of my opportunities, utilize my connections. learned throughout the sport through all avenues, whether that was, as a driver, from the business standpoint, growing my brand, everything that it takes to, try to be successful in this sport. And here we are today in 2024 with a couple truck starts on our hands and more races to come throughout the year.
Absolutely. That's so cool. I love how you say 99% don't make it, but that 1% does. And for any kid out there listening, drive to be that 1% because it's very, very possible. Whether if that's for YouTube, like me, Robert in commentary, or Mason with driving cars, that 1% is all you need sometimes, and it's closer than you think. So you talk about making some starts with RBR back in 2022. This year, you're driving the 22 truck. You just ran Darlington for the same team. How did that deal come together? And talk a little bit about building that relationship over time, because you've been making a lot of your truck starts for that very team.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nathan Blaisdell, who's one of the head guys over at Snowbelt Management, he was a part of another organization called FGR. He reached out to me after winning one of my late model races with RWR and E33 and said, "Hey, I think I can help you get your NASCAR approval, and I think I have an opportunity for you to go make your truck debut." Reached out to me out of the blue. I never talked to Nate at any point at that time, and I just said, "All right." I said, "If you think you can help me with some of this stuff, then I'm willing to work with you on a few of these things and just see how it goes." Didn't think much of it. Lo and behold, got approved. He got me a hold of Josh, and we started putting that deal together. Managed to put some sponsorship together with some partners that I had on the late model side, and we were able to go run Gateway. We had a pretty respectful debut that was drastically different than anything that I've ever done in my career at that point. Had no ARCA experience. It was all just short tracks and late models. Um, and me and Josh had a lot in common. We had a lot of similar interests and had a lot of the same goals and expectations. I feel like we're both pretty realistic with where we need to be and where we want to be with the equipment and the budget that we have. And we know what our goals are. So that was something that we meshed with together, and something that I think he found interesting was, I'm willing to look at all avenues to try to make it work, whether that's me reaching out to sponsors and partners personally, taking care of them and putting more on the table for them in order to utilize connections and allow partnerships to really flourish and be active. So that was another thing that he was interested in, and I also wasn't afraid to call and ask questions to Josh, and I think that's something that he really admired and thought was unique compared to a lot of the drivers nowadays who are fortunate enough to have agencies or people that can help with the marketing side of things, but it's pretty much just a one-man team with my dad included that tries to help me out with these deals. And I think that's where he found it fascinating, was on that standpoint. But yeah, I've been fortunate enough to work with Josh a lot over the last 2.5 years. We've had some success last year, and we're trying to carry that over into this year as well with the few starts that I have with RBR this year. And I think we're really close to meeting our goals and expectations that me and Josh set at the beginning of this year. We ran great at Darlington for my first ever time at that racetrack. Never been there before. We were in contention for a top 15 there, and unfortunately, just had a mechanical failure with only 20 laps to go. But it's part of it. But the thing that still gets me excited is, hey, we were really competitive. It didn't fall into our laps. We just ran a good race and put it all together, and we were outperforming and outweighing a lot of the teams that we were racing against, with Tricon and Thor Sport, Nice Motorsports, McAnally, a lot of other organizations. And we were racing them on pure pace and, had some luck go our way, but, that's just part of racing. Some things need to go in your favor in order to, make the most of certain opportunities and get the finishes that you need and you deserve. So, yeah, I've been able to really just continue to utilize our relationship and our partnership. We've been able to do some cool stuff together, and I consider Josh a really, really good friend and somebody that looks out for me and my best interest, whether that's me driving for him or not, which I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Even when I was driving for other teams in the Xfinity Series last year, he was, usually one of the first people to reach out to me and make sure that everything was good, asked if I had any questions, or if he saw something that I did good, he would applaud me on it. And, if I did something that, maybe didn't make much sense or could count as a mistake, he'd call me out on that as well. So, yeah, our friendship is it's pretty cool. I'm forever grateful for Josh and RBR for the opportunities that they've given me. Even when at times it probably didn't make sense to have me back or to do more with me, but we've been able to do some cool stuff together, and I'm appreciative of that first start every day because just to see where it's brought me today is truly incredible, and I'm forever grateful.
Absolutely. So you talk about building that relationship and it's how cool of a deal that is and how far that has took you. Has there been any driver or teammate that you have leaned on that has been super helpful while coming up through the ranks?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little tough to say. I mean, unfortunately, with the position that I'm in, it's usually just wherever you can find the opportunity to go racing, you pretty much just go. So I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of good teammates. Mason Massey, ironically enough, the two M&Ms. I've been fortunate enough to lean off of him, and we've kind of become good buddies over the last year and a half. Garrett Smithley has been another person that I've leaned on, Josh included in that deal, with his years of experience. Dawson Cram, who's a good friend of mine and obviously has a lot of experience as well between trucks and Xfinity. Ryan Vargas has been another one that's been pretty instrumental with trying to help me and wanting to be there for me. So I appreciate him and what he's done. Um, Timmy Hill's another one that I've been fortunate enough to work with a little bit when I drove for Carl Long a couple times at MBM Motorsports. And, he's still instrumental in trying to help me. He always says, hey, if you got any questions, just, come find me. So there's a lot of guys that I could name for sure. But like I said, when you're bouncing around from ride to ride, trying to, make the most of any opportunity that comes my way, it's kind of hard to keep track of teammates, but those are just a few guys that stick out to me in my mind that have been, very helpful with trying to, give me information, kind of give me an understanding for what I need to prepare for when going into race weekends, or, sometimes even calling me out and saying, hey, you didn't do this right, but, just as long as you learn from it, that's what matters. So, yeah, there's a few people, but yeah, those are the few that I can think of off the top of my head that have been a big part of that.
Always nice to get big helps in racing. I want to pass you over to Robert Hill, and he always has some of the best questions.
Well, I don't know if they're the best, but Mason, you mentioned when you were racing back in the limited late models, you raced for Light Motorsports. Was that Steven Light's team, the 2012 Cup Series Rookie of the Year?
Fun fact, that is his relatives in his family. So Matt and Kevin Light, as well as Eugene Light, they're all related to Stephen. So there was a little bit of tie-in there. Same last name and everything. So I do get asked about that a lot. Yeah, Stevens come out to a race before whenever I was racing, and then I know there was one point where he was racing a pro car at Hickory, and I came out to support him and got to see him race for the first time in a long time. So yeah, I mean, I don't know Steven all that well, but he is a good guy in the few interactions that I've had with him, and the Light family has certainly done a lot for me. Um, with giving me that first opportunity in stock car racing. And fun fact, that was the theme of the throwback that I did, was Eugene Light Sr., who was the father of Eugene Light Jr. And, Kevin and Matt were his grandkids. So he passed away recently. And, when I got the opportunity to run Darlington, I figured, I don't know how many times I'm going to be able to run a throwback, but let me figure out something that will create a lot of significance and meaning for me. So then we put that together, and then
Will you lose him?
no, you got me.
There we
But yeah, no, we put that throwback together, and that was really cool. Getting Eugene's reaction out of it. Kevin came to the racetrack, and I know Steven's worked with RBR and MBM, and I think Steven spotted for me at one point. So there's a little bit of tie-in, but yeah, there's it's kind of cool how it all comes full circle like that.
Yeah, and Stephen Light's one of those guys that has a career where he had success, won an Xfinity race for Robert Yates Racing probably about 15 years ago, won an ARCA race for them as well, then went on to win the 2012 Cup Series Rookie of the Year, which I think is one a lot of people forget, but he had great potential, just never really got the opportunity. But either way, that's really cool that you were able to have that tie-in with him and work with him a little bit, not as much as maybe some would have hoped, because that could have given you a little bit of guidance there. But speaking of guidance, Mason, obviously throughout your career and throughout everyone's career coming up in this industry, there's usually somebody that takes them under their wing and leads them through the initial stages of that journey in this industry. And for you, did you have anybody really like that? Obviously, you mentioned you didn't come from a racing family, so you don't really have that background there, but was there someone in the industry that you kind of gravitated to and leaned on when you needed that help, aside from all those great teammates you had, of course?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I would say, ironically enough, Garrett Smithley. I know you said not in the teammate tie-in, but I've known Garrett for a long time. Fun fact: he was the first ever NASCAR driver that I had met in person when I was driving Bandolero cars. So, kind of cool how it all comes full circle like that, and to be buddies with him and to get to know him on a personal level. Whenever I had questions when I was driving the pro car with RWR, when he was a part of RWR, um, he was the first person that, I would lean on and ask for guidance, whether that was with the pro late models or, just trying to point me in the right direction of, where I needed to be or could be at the NASCAR level. Pointing me in the direction of, some good people. And, that's given me the opportunities and the right guidance. And, he's been instrumental with that. So, even still, I can still call him up and he can give me some advice, or he says, hey, if you want to hop on iRacing and try to get in a few laps, and I can point out some things, we can do that too. So, um, yeah, Garrett's been pretty instrumental with helping me with all that. And, I'm grateful for the friendship that we have, and to be able to race him, at this level. So, yeah, he's been the biggest guy that's tried to help guide me, at least into the NASCAR rankings. But I think it's a little bit different now that we're competing with each other. But regardless, uh, he's still willing to help me with any little bit that he can, without giving me too much.
Yeah, obviously doesn't want to give you
Yeah, just
too much there as a competitor, but one thing you mentioned in there was iRacing, and my next question was, being a driver that doesn't have that full schedule, what do you have to do from week to week to stay ready in case you're called upon and given an opportunity to get behind the wheel of a car or a truck?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a big thing, right? Is just how much preparation can you put in? Me being, as I call myself, the small time part time guy. I it's only select opportunities that you have to be behind the wheel. So there's no manufacturer tie in. I can't go to Ford, Chevy, or Toyota and go run their simulators where if you run with them, you have all the resources that you need, engineers, etc. So for me, iRacing at the shop is huge with just getting the best idea possible for what to expect out of the racetrack, out of the vehicle, studying data called SMT, where we can kind of compare and contrast, what certain guys are doing over, myself or somebody else that I could be comparing to. Watching footage is another crucial one, onboards or previous races from that track. I know that was instrumental with helping me for Darlington was watching footage, and ironically enough, that some of the races that I got last minute calls to do, I ended up doing better because spent I kind of had to learn it quicker than I would if I had a race a week or two in advance. So yeah, those are a lot of the resources that I use. Sometimes calling fellow drivers or car owners and trying to get their input too on some of these racetracks is very helpful as well. So yeah, there's a lot of avenues that you can look at. It's just a matter of which one fits you the best, and how can you utilize the information that you're given and ultimately replicate that on the racetrack.
Yeah, obviously, as we've talked to a couple other drivers that are in similar situations to you, being with some of the either lower funded teams or piecing together schedules as they go along, we've understood the struggles that they go through when it comes to not necessarily having access to the manufacturer based simulators, or the information that might be available to some of those bigger teams or the guys running those full schedules. But you also mentioned how your background comes from legend cars and bandoleros. And obviously, you're on the younger end of the NASCAR spectrum, coming in at just 19 years of age. But who are some of those drivers that you went door to door with back in those legend and bandolero days, maybe at the summer shootout at Charlotte, or some of those other big races?
Yeah, I mean, it's safe to say that legend cars are probably one of the more keen paths to take for a lot of the guys that you see up at the national levels. I've been able to race against, guys like William Swalowich, who, is now running ARCA trucks and, I mean, shoot, just a little bit of everything, it seems like. I've been fortunate enough to race against guys like Jake Finch, whose dad is James Finch, and a few guys like that off the top of my head, and be in the same garage area as a lot of other guys. Corey Heim was kind of in his prime legend car days whenever I started racing bandoleros. That was before he went and did the ARCA stuff with Chad Bryan and a bunch of late model stuff. So just to name a few guys that I've seen or I've been around at that lower ranking or the grassroots level. Um, I think it's been really unique, kind of being on a similar path as a lot of guys that I race with in Xfinity and trucks, and even seeing guys even right now that are getting into ARCA, truck, Xfinity, etc., and being able to excel at those levels as well. So Legend Cars has taught me a lot, and it's allowed me to excel and use the information and the experience that I've learned from it, and be able to replicate that into a lot of the bigger stuff that I'm doing today. So, yeah, definitely a big tool, especially when you guys got guys that are champions of the sport like Joey Logano that have come from that level and have gone on to do big things as well.
Yeah, those legend cars are definitely extremely competitive. At my home track up here, we used to have a driver that would race here who was probably one of the best legend car drivers, at least in Canada, by the name of Kevin Foisey. I know down there in the States, he was really competitive at Charlotte as well. So definitely good competition there. Great way to develop and work your way up through the ranks. I'm going to toss you back over to Dustin here. Dustin, what you got, my friend?
I love asking this question to our guest. So, we're big on iRacing. How realistic of a simulator is iRacing, and how much help is it to use a sim going into a race weekend?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, iRacing is definitely one of the key components. I think it gives you the absolute best idea of what a vehicle and a track are going to look like and feel like. I think it's about as close as you can get to the real thing. Obviously, there's some imperfections here and there, but that's part of it. You know, it's hard to replicate the real thing without actually going and doing it. But you know, I would say that's you know, as far as looking out for, you know, breaking points, for example, or when to get back on the throttle and, you know, experimenting with different lanes and trying to see what's going to help the vehicle on, you know, short run, long run, whatever that may be. That gives you about the best idea possible. It's a key resource that every race car driver uses without question. It's been such a cool tool to use and to be able to kind of compare and contrast notes, especially with, you know, a lot of my fellow drivers. And you know, I've been able to learn a lot from that. That I've been able to feel more comfortable whenever I go and do the real thing. Um, you know, because it gives you that good idea of what you need to look out for, what you need to do, and then, you know, once you go out there and kind of get more comfortable with it, you know, you continue to tweak it whenever you're on track. So, yeah, iRacing's definitely been a very useful tool, and something that I think is only going to get better with a lot of the stuff that they've been working on and have continued to add to iRacing's resume. That gives drivers just so many tools and resources to utilize to the best of their advantage before going into a race weekend.
Gotcha. So you were born in Palm Beach, Florida. Have you made the move to North Carolina yet, or is that planned for the future, or is it to stick around in Florida like our fellow car owner Mario Goslin has?
Yeah, Florida is, I love Florida, but North Carolina is where I need to be. I've actually been up here since about October. You know, kind of just been bouncing back and forth, trying to figure out what, you know, my best opportunity was going to be, one in racing, and then two, you know, what could I do to, you know, stay and try to make it work. So I've been working at the Rayom shop during the weeks, and you know, just recently moved into a new place and have been kind of getting that ready to go. Got a couple roommates and buddies of mine that are in the industry that are going to get ready to move in as well. So, um, you know, it's been really cool getting to be up here in North Carolina. Been up here multiple times, you know, trying to get seat fittings and get prepared for race weekends whenever I was driving for a team. And so that was kind of the nice part, was I wasn't going into this, you know, with a complete lack of knowledge on the area and the people. You know, I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of friends in this sport that live up here as well, and be able to continue those friendships and get to hang out with those guys. And I've enjoyed living up in North Carolina so far, and you know, excited to see what racing and being in North Carolina has in store for me as you know, I move forward and, you know, hopefully create more opportunities for myself.
Big congratulations. That is a cool deal. You know, North Carolina is the home of NASCAR. I would imagine it's pretty tough not living in North Carolina and pursuing a NASCAR career. But last year, you made your debut in the NASCAR Xfinity Series for MBM. Can you walk us through your Xfinity Series starts and how that came together and what you have learned between coming up through the ranks in NASCAR, whether if that's the Truck Series or the Xfinity Series, and the difference between the two divisions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, I'm extremely thankful for Carl Long and MBM Motorsports for, you know, being the first to reach out to me about, you know, going towards the Xfinity route. You know, I know Josh and him have had a connection, and that was ironically enough who Carl reached out to kind of figure out, like, okay, is this, you know, is this kid gonna do respectful? Is he gonna do well? And you know, Josh talked very highly of me. Jason Hotailing, who used to work over there as well as crew chief over there, was very instrumental in trying to get me over to Carl's. And, you know, we were able to attempt to qualify for Vegas, fell a little bit short, but that was at a time when Carl was, you know, struggling to make races. But, you know, went to Richmond again, and we managed to be in the show and just learned throughout the day. I think we had a fast car that day. I think we could have finished in the top 25, but you know, as they say, you'll have that in big time auto racing. We had miscue on some strategy there, and just didn't get the finish that we wanted, but still finished the debut. But yeah, no, as far as comparisons or compare and contrast to both series, the Xfinity cars are a lot of horsepower, a lot less downforce versus the trucks that have a lot of downforce and a little less power. So trucks are more about on throttle time, and trying to utilize the aero, and some of the aerodynamics that come with it, at a lot of the racetracks at mile and a halves and super speedways. The Xfinity cars, aero does play into it, but it's not as bad. The Xfinity cars, you got to be a lot more patient with, as far as letting the car kind of do its thing and not really rushing it as much as you would the truck, where as soon as you're off the throttle, you got to get back on it, at a lot of the mile and a halves and super speedways. But yeah, I think Xfinity is tough. There is no question about that. The competition's tough. The the level of that you're in, versus I think trucks are a lot more competitive. I mean, I think from first to probably about 33rd is racing super super hard every single lap, versus the trucks, where I feel like there's a little bit of a separation there, where you got your top guys battling from about first to 22nd roughly, versus your guys that are competing from about 25th on back. But regardless, that's not to say one's more competitive over the other. I think trucks are starting to show a little bit more stride, similar to the Xfinity Series on the competition level, even for those smaller teams on both ends. But I definitely think that both are competitive in their own way and unique in their own way. So yeah, definitely would like to be back in the Xfinity Series for a race or two this year, but just kind of got to go where the opportunities are. And right now they're in trucks between driving for Rayon Brothers Racing, as well as the newest team in the garage area with Floridian Motorsports.
So last week, Darlington Raceway, I want to hear about how Darlington was going into it. It's such a tough track, and how challenging is Darlington? Taking a look at the results, you did beat Kyle Busch at Darlington. You did beat Matt Crafton at Darlington. But walk us through the weekend at Darlington Raceway.
Yeah, I mean, we had a rough week at Kansas the week prior, so that was pretty disappointing. So the RBR guys did a great job with just going through the truck and trying to figure out what we could do to be better. Kansas is a track that I have the most experience at. That's the track that I've been able to return to the most, thanks to our partners out there with Professional AG Services, Ranch 4D, and LT Delivery that have continued to make that happen. But yeah, Darlington, that weekend I kind of went in there with different expectations. It was more or less, and I made sure to let the team know this, as far as just, hey, this is a tough racetrack. Let's just kind of learn throughout the day, know where to set our expectations, and let's just set goals that are obtainable, with wherever we're at. So practice and qualifying were really just learning opportunities. The first stage, I mean, we got up to speed pretty well. We were kind of battling around, 25th, 27th, roughly, if I remember correctly. And then I think stage two, I mean, we set the world on fire, and we're starting to move up towards the top 20, was running around 20th to, 22nd roughly. And then, had some guys fall out of the race and started up inside the top 20. And, we just had really good speed, and we were better than a lot of guys on the long run on older tires. And I think that's where my limited experience comes with light motorsports at Hickory. Hickory has a deal where you just race on scuffed tires. So it kind of played into my wheelhouse a lot more than a lot of other guys would. And that's what allowed us to get up there. And man, I wish we could have finished. We had something blow with oil. Supposedly we had a pretty big oil leak and were starting to smoke really bad and just couldn't finish with about 20 to go, which was a bummer. Definitely think we could have finished around 10th to 15th with how that last caution played out. But as they say, beggars can't be choosers, and just got to move on to the next week and the next opportunity. But definitely a big confidence booster for myself, who doesn't really have that opportunity to run that high up in the rankings during a race. But not just it's just because of equipment and the budget difference between the big and small teams. But it was still cool to be up in that mix and to at least be in contention for those kinds of finishes at a place like Darlington, where a lot of the drive and the long run comes more into favor.
So, one question I love asking all our guests, and we normally get the same answer. Who was your favorite driver growing up?
110% Jeff Gordon.
Hey,
One of
How did we know?
one of the first memories that I can ever remember, as far as when it comes to NASCAR, was having this, the red and blue Jeff Gordon Flames diecast car that my grandfather got for me and that was one of the first, I think, 124 diecast that I ever gotten, from his 2001 championship. And um, that's what I paid attention to on TV, and that's was just the iconic DuPont Flames car. And then kind of next up was Dale Jr. in the Bud car, Jimmy Johnson in the Lowe's car, and so many other guys in what was the Nextel Cup Series at the time. That I remember is just it was just crazy. But yeah, Jeff Gordon was one of my all-time favorites. Still is one of my all-time favorites. Was fortunate enough to meet him last year at Daytona, so it was pretty cool how it came full circle. And funny enough, I actually had a full-bodied go-kart that I wrapped in a Jeff Gordon Flames paint scheme, something that was to go play around in a parking lot and have some fun for a little bit. And but yeah, Jeff Gordon was my idol, still is my idol, and somebody that I think is an absolute legend.
That's so wild. Literally every race car driver we have had on here has says Jeff Gordon. And so for one, and that was Natalie Decker. She said her favorite was Mark Martin. But everyone else as came on said Jeff Gordon, which is wild because I was a Gordon fan growing up. Robert was a Gordon fan growing up. I'm going to pass you back to Robert.
yeah, Mason. Obviously, you mentioned that you've done some starts with Floridian this year. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that team and maybe how that whole deal came together?
Yeah, so Scott Osteen, who is a good friend of ours, and has been a partner of mine for the last 2.5 years. Um, he had told me from the get-go, the moment we met, when I, wanted to get him on board as a late model sponsor. Um, he had told me, he said, "Hey, one of my dreams is to start a NASCAR truck team, and I want you to drive for me." And originally, you don't think much of it, right? And
Yeah.
I'd always hoped that time would come for him, and lo and behold, mid-January, um, he gives me and my dad a call and says, "Hey, I'm serious about starting this team. I want to go to Daytona and try to qualify for the race, and just kind of be one of those guys that at least shows up for the plate races, and tries to qualify for those." And eventually, Carl Long, who we talked about earlier, had kind of come into the picture to just to try to guide him and put him in the right direction and help field the Floridia Motorsports entries. And we got a truck and went down to Daytona and said, "Hey, let's just give this a shot." And we were a lot closer to making the race than I ever would have expected for a brand new team. And I think we were only 500ths off of making the field. Had to be 31st. We were 32nd. So, that was just the way the cookie crumbled. We knew what we signed up for, and next thing you know, Scott calls me on a Monday too. Is like, "Hey, I managed to work out a deal where we could get a 1.5 mile truck. I want to go to Atlanta." and lo and behold, we put that together. Managed to have a new partner of ours this year at SI Yacht Sales come on board for that one, and as well as a few other partners for that race. And went there, had a good time, had a shot at the top 20, and unfortunately had a tire go down while right at the beginning of stage 3 and turn 1 on the restart. Didn't damage it, but we brought it home clean in 24th. Got a last minute call to come run Bristol, and we that was a big learning day compared to Daytona and Atlanta. But it's about building a notebook for a new team like that, and just trying to log laps and try to see, as a new team, where we can improve, what we need to capitalize on, and fixing mistakes. And I'm just thankful that Scott has given me the opportunity to drive his truck on a handful of occasions this year. We got some pretty cool stuff that we're working on for a few more races this year, as we've got some pretty exciting sponsor news here within the next couple days. So excited about that, and looking forward to trying to help him grow his program whenever I don't have races conflicting over at RBR. So we've got some cool stuff that we're working on, and I'm just thankful to continue to be in that picture and to try to be a part of Scott's dream. It's certainly means a lot to me that he chose me to be essentially his anchor driver. And there's nothing more that I want to see than Scott's program to grow and hopefully meet his goals and expectations.
I think there's definitely a sense of pride there, being the driver selected to help kick off a startup program, and having the owner have faith in you to be able to go out there, keep his equipment in one piece and load it back on the trailer at the end of the day with a solid run. And I think that's what you have with Scott there. So that's really exciting to see that kick off, and see what comes from it over the next couple of years, next couple of months, for sure, here towards the end of the season. We're already approaching halfway, which is absolutely crazy. But excited to see what's to come for Floridian. But you mentioned, obviously, your starts with RBR. How many more starts do you currently have scheduled in concrete, that are confirmed for the rest of this season?
Yeah, so we got about 3 more roughly. We got some sponsorship news that we're going to be announcing within the next couple months, but
Perfect.
definitely 3 more for sure, which I'm super excited about. And ironically enough, or 2 of the tracks are tracks that I've never been to. So I'm excited to give those 2 a try. Realistically, on my schedule, I've only got 2 racetracks that I'm returning to that I have multiple starts at, and I've already done that at Kansas, and I'm going to have that a little later in the year at Miami. But yeah, I got a few others that we have locked down, and always trying to secure more with any opportunity that comes our way, and with ever a like-minded partner comes to the table and wants to do more, and try to look at the best avenues for their budget and their interests, and trying to utilize that to the best of our capability.
It's definitely a great way to look at it, and you got to always keep grinding, try to put those programs together no matter what the opportunity is. Any opportunity in racing is usually a good opportunity because it's a chance to get your name out there. But you mentioned how you've been working with RBR, Josh Rayoman, the guys over there do an absolutely phenomenal job. And I know Josh loves to have the guys that drive for him be in the shop, working on the trucks, be involved with the team. So what's your role at the shop, and do you go to the racetrack for those starts that you're not making as well to help the team out?
Yeah, so I'm thankful for Josh for giving me that opportunity. He knows that it was a big jump for me to, basically be fresh off of graduating high school to moving to North Carolina after the summer. So, um, I kind of do a little bit of everything. Go run errands for those guys. Bring trucks to the body shop, or go try to clean things, or just do a little bit of any and everything, and just be a team player. um I'm thankful enough to have that opportunity and to be able to continue working in the industry that I want to be involved in, and I hope I'm involved with it for as long as I can be. And it definitely helps having a guy like Josh who has been, instrumental and has allowed me to be kind of flexible too. He's given me that opportunity where he says, "Hey, if you need to go, do something as a driver or, go do some marketing stuff, whatever that may be, just go do it." Because, he understands all sides of it, which is something I'm extremely grateful for. And he knows from being, a driver owner, um, and being in a similar spot to me. So, I haven't exactly I haven't exactly graduated to the at track stuff, but anytime that I can come to the racetrack, I always try to make the most of that opportunity and try to help in any way that I can. And just be able to also kind of be on standby. Always got my race gear in the hauler just in case something does happen. But yeah, no, I'm just just having the opportunity to work and drive for a team that I've worked with before, and I feel at home with is always something really cool. And I'm thankful for Josh and everybody at RBR for giving me that opportunity to work so closely with them and allow me to just try to make this crazy racing dream work one day at a time.
Absolutely. It's always a one step at a time sort of deal. And I see a lot of similarities between Josh Rayome and Mario Goslin of DGM. Of course, here at Drive Smart, we're on board with the 91 machine of Kyle Weatherman with DGM Racing. And both Mario and Josh are racers first, and they always prioritize their drivers, which is something that not all teams do. So it's really nice to see. But Mason, obviously your career's still very young, but have you developed any rivalries out on the racetrack yet? Maybe in the NASCAR ranks or down in the late models? That stuff gets pretty crazy.
There's always some sort of rivalry, no matter what level you race at, is what I've learned. I don't mean to pound my own chest when I say this, but I really do try to be as clean of a driver as I possibly can. I want to race hard, but I don't want it to get to the point where, we're beating doors and, dumping each other week in and week out. Because at the end of the day, that's not racing. That's just bumper cars at that point. But I've grown some friendly rivalries. I've also grown some not so friendly rivalries. Josh Lauder, who was somebody that I competed with in pro late models with my campaign at RWR and E33. Um, we had a very friendly, competitive rivalry. It seemed like every race that we ran, we were always around each other, but we would race with respect, rub a little bit, but not too much to upset each other or go over the edge. But it was just short track racing. Um, so he's a guy that I think of off the top of my head. Um, I had a friendly rivalry with one of my good friends who now works over at SS Greenlight Racing as a tire specialist, Max Price, who I competed with in limited late models. He was my teammate, and that was kind of his breakout year. He and I were battling for the championship towards the end of the season and battling for race wins, and that's always fun. We were usually pretty clean and raced hard, but we always knew, to kind of give each other pats on the back and kind of say attaboy for, how we raced and, whether I finished in front of him or he finished in front of me. We always made sure to show respect for each other. But as far as the NASCAR rankings go, I usually try to be as clean as I can be, but Darlington, for example, I guess was not too kind. I think I walked while it was one of my better showings as a driver. I also think that stirred the pot for a couple of guys. One of them was justified. The other one wasn't exactly. Um, I've even stirred up a little bit of a unfriendly rivalry with some guys that are currently in the Cup Series right now. As crazy as that sounds, but I won't name names, but that's the thing is there's two different rivalries. There's the friendly competitive rivalry between guys that have respect for each other, and then there's the not so friendly rivalry with guys that and are not afraid to get to your back bumper and spin you around certain weeks, or put their hand out the window and show the displeasure finger, as I like to call it. So,
I like that. I like that term.
but yeah, there's it's just a matter of finding that happy medium balance, I guess.
Definitely good to find that happy medium. And my final question here, we are getting down to the tail end of it, is kind of a three-parter here. What are your goals for the rest of this season? What are your goals for next season? And where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, as far as my goals for this year, it's always just run as many races as we can. I feel like this year, uh, I really want to build my stock up, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Just continue to have good runs like we had at Darlington, like we had at Atlanta this year. Continue to grow on and off the racetrack, and just bring trucks or cars, whatever I'm driving, home clean, with respectful finishes for, realistically where I need to be running. Um, for next year, I'd love to try to, there's a part of me that wants to go Xfinity racing on a more regular basis next year. Without question, if I meet my goals and expectations for this year, and trying to feel ready for when that Xfinity opportunity comes, and kind of to show the industry that too. I definitely want to make some truck starts in 2025, but I guess it's just a matter of what opportunity comes my way that makes sense for me and my partners and everybody that I work with. Um, as far as 5 years, there's one or two plans. I'd love to have that competitive opportunity to try to go hunt for race wins. Probably going to be on a part-time basis, just with where I stand with funding and all that. But I want to have a shot to win races at the national level, whether that's in Xfinity or trucks, whatever that may be. Or, hopefully if I stick around long enough and, I continue to kind of do what I said earlier, which is building my stock up and running respectively for the teams that I'm running for, and, have some opportunities to compete in the Cup Series. I mean, that's my ultimate goal. I've had interest from team owners in the Cup level, that have asked me to come drive their cars, but, um, you know, one of the problems is funding, and then two, the other thing is I want to make sure that whenever I get that call after that 5 years, that I'm ready to make the most of that opportunity, because I'm still very new to this. This is only
Or
my second year in NASCAR as a whole, on a full time basis. Well, sort of full time basis, but I guess main focus, as I like to call it. But yeah, those cars are so different from where they were, about 3 4 years ago. So I want to make sure that when I get that call and it's an opportunity that makes sense, and I have like-minded partners that want to make that step with me, that I can make the most of that opportunity and be able to excel and learn and be able to get the finishes for teams that I feel like I'll be competing against.
I love that your goals are very reasonable and attainable goals that you're keeping your expectations in line and in check, and stuff that you can definitely see a path towards achieving. I'm going to throw you back over to Dustin here, see what he's got before we wrap it up here tonight. Thanks, Mason.
Absolutely. So, when are we going to see you back in a truck next?
We have got Charlotte coming up. We got some really cool stuff that we're working with. Like I said earlier, Floridian Motorsports, we've been able to put together a really cool partnership deal recently. So it's allowed me to extend my schedule, which we'll be announcing at some point next week. But I'm really excited for that. Excited to continue helping Scott Osteen and with his program, and um, we got a stretch of races coming over during the summer months. So I'll be a little bit more active than where I was a little bit at the beginning of the season. But regardless, just excited for these opportunities and these announcements, and looking forward to being on the racetrack and hopefully getting the results that we want and continue to have some fun in the process.
Absolutely. So, is there anyone that you want to shout out before we tune off here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, my family, greatly appreciate them for their continuous love and support for this crazy racing dream that I have. I appreciate them supporting me every step of the way, even when at times it didn't make sense, they still supported me. All the teams that I've worked with, all of our great partners that, allow us to go do this and trust me to represent their brands. All the friends that, have stuck with me as well. Thank you to Drive Smart and you guys for allowing me to come on the show in the first place. I greatly appreciate it. And, honored to be a part of the double digit episode for your podcast. So, a lot to be thankful for. We'd be here for a couple hours if I really took the time to thank everybody that's gotten me to this point. But just grateful for the opportunities and the people that I get to work with, and just want to make everybody that believes in me proud.
There we go. Thank you so much, Mason Maggio, for coming on for episode number 10. So, Robert, how do you feel about that one? We're going to give away some merch here in one moment, so stay tuned.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Really enjoyed having Mason on and hearing this perspective of a driver that's trying to work their way up in the industry, still at those initial steps of breaking his way into the industry and looking for those opportunities. But a lot on the line here this season, a lot of opportunity still to come here for Mason. So watch for him on the racetrack, especially coming up in Charlotte here in a couple weeks. That's going to be a fun one. Can't wait to see what he can do out there.
Absolutely nothing but excitement. So, I believe we're going to be giving away some nice Drive Smart merch. You see
Ooh.
it there. That is the Kyle Weatherman Drive Smart Warranty t-shirt. You're probably wondering, how do you win this bad boy? Well, all you got to do is type something in the chat, and you're automatically eligible to win. So, we're going to go ahead and spin the wheel here, and we're going to give the shirt to Cameron Romino coming on Cameron. So how about that? Cameron's going to win a nice Kyle Weatherman t-shirt. So Cameron, all you got to do is reach out to @GoDriveSmart over on Twitter. And we're going to get you hooked up here, get your mailing address, and we're going to ship you a nice t-shirt. So we give away merch at the end of every single stream. So if you didn't win something this week, come back next Thursday night, and you have a shot to win that Kyle Weatherman t-shirt because we give them away every single stream. So with that said, I think we're going to go ahead and close off episode number 10 of the Pit Crew podcast. I hope you all enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next one.